Hello there, everybody. Welcome back. I'm here to be talking about Toy Story 5. And Toy Story 5 is obviously the newest Pixar film and Toy Story film in this acclaimed, iconic franchise. And it follows, the toys, with Bonnie. And obviously, as time goes on and as we see how technology has kind of really taken over in many, many ways, naturally, technology would play a role into the Toy Story films, and it follows Bonnie, who doesn't really have like any friends. She just plays with the toys by herself, and she wants to try and make other friends, and so it all leads to her getting a tablet in order to try to connect with other kids who are also obviously glued to the tablets. And so it follows the main theme of kids being glued too much to their tablets, which we see, like I see this all the time whenever I'm like out and about, and you just see like families, like kids that are like glued to like their phone or their tablet, and even grown-ups, like so many of us nowadays are just glued to like social media, scrolling through TikToks, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. And I just want to say, like, how the film I just think it's incredible that a big, major studio is willing to make a film that tackles this. I personally think it's a pretty serious topic because, as time goes on, like, the more that kids are, like, glued to that, I mean, and I just think it's a really great message. And, it also dives into other stuff, social, like, peer pressure, like, because she loves playing with her toys, Bonnie, and all that, but there's like moments, without getting into like too many spoiler stuff, where she's hesitant to really want to show how much she loves, playing with, her toys, and wanting to make like friends outside of just tapping the screen, talking to them on the screen or whatever, because that's not the cool hip thing, because everyone is glued to the screen. And how the film does that messaging on all these different things, like, glued to social, like to technology, and, a bit of like peer pressure. And there's, instances of, just how cruel it could be online. And I really appreciated seeing a film tackle that type of stuff. And that was the main highlight for me, is just seeing, I really hope that, I mean, who knows if this, can maybe make a difference in how some parents will be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't let our kids have a social media device or like an iPad or whatever that young, like when you're like in elementary, middle school. I personally think it should be a bit later, so that the kid can fully develop normally without being glued to social media. And so that is like, I really want to commend the people who made the film for, tackling a message like that, because I think it's really important. On top of also, the whole gang's pretty much back. Obviously, Woody shows up, which basically it's funny because I've seen a lot of people say, well, in the grand scheme of things, he didn't really need to be in this film. They just wanted to bring him back. And when you think of it about that, yeah, but it's also kind of funny because him coming back is also hilarious, because the entire fourth film, a lot of people over the years has really knocked the fourth film. And, obviously my sister and I are not the biggest fans of it. She is a diehard hater of Toy Story 4. And I think it's, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not that great, especially once you sit down and nitpick all the stuff. But this film, right out the gate, I mean, who knows with the passage of time, but I really thought they did a great job all around with, the main thing is the message, how well done it was. And obviously, like, not every character has a big chance to shine. Like, Jessie is obviously the main focal point, and I really did appreciate, her like background and learn more about, her and how she feels, and, really wanted to, help Bonnie, make real friends and stuff. And I really liked her journey. Bullseye being with her throughout was really cool as well. And, just seeing that play out. And I gotta say, another highlight, which I was like, what's going on here? Where you had like these army of Buzzes, like a bunch of Buzz Lightyears, how they, like, we kept coming back to them, and you're wondering how it's going to play into the film. And I just thought every time it cut to them, it was so hilarious. It was a lot of fun, and it was just really fun. It was just a highlight of the film every time we cut to the army of Buzzes. And, me and my sister were just laughing and enjoying it, and it was just so fun. Buzz, like the main Buzz, also gets some good stuff as well. Him and Woody have their classic, banter, which, is really endearing and fun to see that again. I thought the animation throughout was really solid, and especially there's these sequences where, like, the kids are like playing with the toys, and the has like this unique style of animation different from the rest of the film, where it's them reenacting certain, like, the playtime sequences, I guess you could say. And I thought those were a lot of fun, so energetic, and like how kids play with toys and stuff. And I just thought that those moments in the film were a lot of fun. And yeah, this film I personally feel was a huge improvement from 4. Definitely better than Lightyear, like, without question. It's hard to say if it's on par with, like, the trilogy, because the trilogy is like the golden standard for arguably like one of the best trilogies, period, not just for like kids. It's just an incredible trilogy of films. So I don't know if it's on par with those, but this film, definitely the main thing going for it is its willingness to tackle the overuse of technology and how it's kind of crawled its way into our lives. A main focus on Jessie, who's been a staple since the second film, and seeing more of her backstory and her motivations and all was really great. Woody and Buzz being there as well was nice. The new additions, as you see on the poster, like obviously Lilypad, I thought was a pretty interesting antagonist, and seeing the story play out there was fun. And the other characters, like when Jessie goes on the journey and you see these other, like, electronics, and how she obviously doesn't like the electronics and stuff because of her own personal experience, seeing how, I just thought that was a interesting dynamic, because, like, it's kind of like, well, these electronics aren't so bad, and there could be some good useful stuff to them. That's what's really interesting, is that there are some useful stuff with electronics if used rightly. And I think the film, that's what it was going for, was trying to show, like, there's kind of a balance there and how everything plays out. But again, the film was a lot of fun. I think it's great. Pixar had like 2 solid hits this year with Hoppers and this. Just really well done. I'm still happy to see them make a comeback, because it was looking kind of bleak there for a bit after, a lot of their films getting put to streaming during, the COVID years. And then obviously when they were coming back to theaters, it was kind of, not looking so good with like Lightyear and all, but they've managed to like bounce back. I think this year was great for them, and I hope to see more success, because I really do like the studio. Obviously, nostalgia plays a factor, but I just think they're incredibly talented people that works there. But with all that said, those are my thoughts on Toy Story 5. Again, what do you all think of my review? Please let me know down below in the comment section. And if you want to hit the bell as well as to get notified when I upload, that means so much to me. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.